This is the sound of a 12-cylinder Merlin aircraft engine. It is a sound that was heard thousands of times in England during World War II. It represents the power it took to lift from the bonds of earth one of the most remarkable and significant aircraft in aviation history, the Avro Lancaster. The Lancaster was a 4-engine bomber with a range of up to 2,500 miles and a top speed of 275 miles per hour. With a flight crew of 6 airmen and a ground crew that kept the great bombers flying, the Lancaster was more than just an airplane. It was a bridge in technology that saved Great Britain. 430 were built in Canada at a factory in Malton, Ontario. These invaluable aircraft were flown to England along with thousands of young men and women who fought and died fighting for freedom. It was a time of war. It wasn't an easy job, but it had to be done. And those Canadian, British, and Allied airmen who flew the Lancaster knew it to be an aircraft that they could count on. Their dangerous missions over occupied Europe and Germany would finally render a timely end to the war, and the great Lancaster soon became a legend. The Lancaster at Nanton was known as FM 159. Built in Canada, it was flown to England in 1945, but was too late to be involved in the war. That same year, it was flown to Fort Macleod, Alberta, where it remained in storage. In 1953, it was flown to Ontario, where it underwent extensive conversion to become a maritime reconnaissance aircraft. In Greenwood, Nova Scotia, it served 2 years with RCAF 103 Rescue Unit, and then moved on to Comox, British Columbia, where it was flown to England, the high Arctic, and even to Alaska. In 1958, it landed for the last time at the former BC-STP training base near Vulcan, Alberta, 25 kilometers east of Nanton, and remained there until 1960. That year, George White of Nanton had the idea of acquiring an aircraft as a war memorial and tourist attraction for his town. After hearing that FM 159 was to be scrapped, he, together with Howie Armstrong and Fred Garrett, purchased the bomber for $513.
And I suggested that we should buy one of these Lancasters and set it up as a tribute to the fellows that flew them and maintained them. And he said, let's do it. And Howie was standing there and he counted me in, so the three of us bought the aircraft. We paid $513 is what we tendered for it, but that was for the aircraft without motors or propellers.
They realized that the Lancaster's main wheels were too far apart to permit traveling along the roads. So the Nanton volunteers waited until the crops had been harvested, put the tail wheel in the back of a truck, and towed the bomber backwards across the fields.
And we went over with a 5-ton truck and towed it over. We weren't quite here with it, but we couldn't get across the little creek that's out here. So we had to go north of town about 2 miles, go across the railway track and get up on the highway. And we came down the highway at 4 o'clock in the morning. I can't look at this aircraft without realizing the courage that it took to get in there and fly over Germany.
It's my opinion that this aircraft won the war. Had they been able to subdue England and France, it would have been a different world.
Those who purchased FM 159 donated the aircraft to the town, and over the next 20 years, volunteers and service clubs did what they could to keep FM 159 looking its best. In that time, millions of people drove by on Highway Number 2, and the Nanton bomber became a symbol for the town. The Nanton Lancaster Society was formed in 1985, and a small museum was started in the town's tourist information booth. In 1990, the aircraft was dedicated to S.L. Ian Bazalgette, the only Albertan to be awarded the Victoria Cross during World War II, and the markings of his aircraft, F-2T, were painted on the side of FM 159's fuselage. By 1991, money had been raised for a museum, and the Lancaster was taken down from her mountings and towed into the new building. Since then, and through the hard work of many volunteers, the museum has grown to national status, with numerous aircraft and associated displays. The story of the Lancaster at Nanton is one of perseverance and good old Albertan determination.
Well, they were going to bury it, you know. They were on the verge of...
At Vulcan.
At Vulcan, yes, and so that they actually rescued it.
They were businessmen. They were, farm business as well as merchants. And this was important that Nanton put Nanton on the map. They were very thrilled, all of them, in the fact that it actually was here and it was brought as a tourist attraction for Nanton. And never did they ever expect it was going to mushroom into this. But anyway, they were thrilled.
Yeah, very proud to be a part of this. Absolute thrill to see that engine started up today. To hear it, to smell it, I was just on board when I was running, was a big thrill. Reminds me a lot of Howie and George. As you look out behind you, you see all the kids that are around the Lancaster right now. It brings it to the present. It reminds us what we did, what we sacrificed, and it reminds us what we need to do to be successful, I guess, in the future.
It is a story that shows what can be done when people really care about something and will stop at nothing to turn a dream into reality. And with that dream comes the museum's opening in the spring of each year and its special summer event every August. From veterans appearances and live music to internet videos, aviation art, and the annual engine startup, this is the place to be. The volunteers at the Lancaster Society Air Museum encourages people everywhere, young and old, to learn more about our past and see history up close by visiting Lancaster FM 159 at Nanton, Alberta.